good time to take stock of why it is important and why we have this essay by Pralay Kanungo on the event and on the politics surrounding the whole sequence of, the whole political architecture of India kind of changed with that event. The whole landscape was sort of shaped by two events in the early 90s, Mandal, and this was the other pole. And why is it important now? Because it is more important, I would say, than what it was even on the 25th anniversary last year.
Yep.
Because actually it had been fairly static, and Modi's arrival in 2014 was based. His Hindutva was a kind of an implicit property that he carried, or his regime carried, or the promise carried. But the promise was essentially based around development, which is what this essay talks about.
Okay.
And the extra votes that the BJP got to come to power was essentially based on the promise of a different model of governance rather than on Hindutva per se. Therefore, even on the agenda, while there was a token kind of mention in the manifesto and things like that, they never really moved on it.
Yeah.
Now, if you see, like 2000, it's been almost 2 years since a hardline figure like Modi is in the center, and then probably an even more hardline figure being there in Ayodhya, in Lucknow, Yogi Adityanath. And for 2 years, nothing really has happened. But now things are in motion. There is a court case, and there are elections happening. One set, and the results will be just with us next week. And there is a general election coming up, and the Supreme Court kind of postponed, almost kind of saw to it that it does not become a factor in these elections. It sort of deferred the hearings to January, and even in January they will sort of constitute a bench, and then that will carry on. And maybe they plan to take the legal side of it out of the equation even for 2019. That does not mean that politically it will not play out. Politically it is so different in 2018-19 than it was in 2014.
So, but it's technically a land dispute. But the religious overtones are obviously there.
Obviously there. Technically, of course, it's a land dispute with, the title dispute. It's a classic title dispute with, now three parties where even Lord Ram is a member, is a
party to
this thing. He has a lawyer, and the Waqf board is one of them, and the Muhi Akhada, that 1/3 division happened in 2010. So that's a title dispute. The criminal cases are separate, and the title dispute, how it plays out, and whether the government can bring in an ordinance or a law. These are very, very tricky issues, and but politically the most significant difference is that the Congress is now has kind of changed its tactics so drastically, so that if someone puts up a bill in Parliament, exactly what will happen is difficult to say.
And you go populist, all of you.
So we are in for fairly interesting times, I would say, for the next few months. And we also have a story by you, Siddharth, and on fake news. And we've all been hearing a lot of stuff about data, big data, Google, Facebook. How the Brazil elections was affected, how the US elections, Russia interfered, allegedly interfered, and that. We had Sabarimala just a couple of weeks ago, where a string of fake news, I think, pretty much colored the whole discourse. And what is your story about?
So the thing is, it's a takeoff from Brazil, and Brazil has kind of the same demographic as India in terms of how they're discovering the internet also, and how pervasive
new users.
How pervasive the internet is. So 44% of the Brazilians get their news through WhatsApp. So they are very susceptible to stuff that comes on WhatsApp. And again, digital literacy, as in India, is low. So they end up believing a lot of the stuff.
How different would digital literacy be from traditional literacy? I mean, these are not neo-literates who are coming into the digital world. These are literate people. So how are they so credulous about what's appearing on WhatsApp?
It's a lot to do with the mindset also, how we are taught stuff. We are not taught to question stuff, and also what you consider a good source of information. People are not very literate, learned people are still not very sure of what they consider a solid source of information. So when WhatsApp, Google, things like that come up, everyone just says Google stuff. And when there's misinformation already out there and designed to suit a purpose, it will pop up in your.
Because I think you're already predisposed in some ways to kind of be against a certain point of view, and therefore anything that meets your confirmation bias, you will actually go for it.
You go for it.
And the tricky thing is, of course, how it sort of, let's say, fake news about something insignificant would not matter at all. But this is very political. That is, how do you think that is kind of in India in the contemporary situation?
The thing is, in Sabrimala, as you said, we just listed 10 that we found. We don't even know what went on in WhatsApp groups in Malayalam. So, like in Brazil, it's only Portuguese that generally the language in which it will be spread. Here, it's I don't even know how many languages. So
there's X number of WhatsApp groups all over the place with political parties actually.
Yeah, they are zeroing in on it.
Very large foot, and there are other
like the BJP has a missed call campaign. So if you send a missed call with a number, they already have your number. They can then push content on your WhatsApp directly. You are directly affected. And then again, we being in the liberal space, we are out of that space. They don't even want to target us. So the kind of people that they think are susceptible to this, they've already pushed that stuff out there.
So let's say a traditional media outlet, its reach, and let's say the reach that a new medium like this has, how big might be the difference?
We don't even know.
We don't even know.
Over 200 million people on WhatsApp in India, still growing, will keep growing over the next 6 months, obviously. But yeah, the reach is.
So what you and I are actually writing about here does not actually affect what readers, millions of readers might be consuming all over the country.
Yeah, because they will not even know it's fake. And they were saying that the BJP guys who even create this content, some of them don't even know it's fake because it's already fitting with their bias. So
that's right.
They're not even willing to examine it on any level.
It's not just necessarily the BJP. I mean, every party will because once this something like information has always been very tightly controlled by whoever has been in power. Anywhere in the world. And journalists are a fairly vulnerable species, and so some of this is fairly depressing news. But do read our stories and.
So Siddharth, when you were working on this story, you must have tried to get in touch with few of these people who were spreading the news, like bot news and all that.
Yeah.
So tell us about the journey while you were investigating the story.
So the thing is, it's still a very tightly knit community. They would not want, and it being election season, they would not want to be out there. But there are Facebook groups which are like, say there are 10 Facebook groups that one of these guys that I was in touch with, who's handled data for the BJP. He was offered 10 Facebook groups for like say between 3 to 5 lakh rupees. And with Facebook groups, the thing is you already have say 1 million subscribers who have already liked your page. So you can push any content on it then. I mean, it just becomes a gun for hire where you can push any kind of stuff that you want to. So there is not enough research also. The BBC tried to do a job with the survey that they came out with recently, but they were criticized. They had to take down their own research. There's no quantitative way to even understand how much of it is out there, and there's no way to understand how it affects us either.
One reason is that fake, it's not very easy to spot a fake if you are credulous, let us say, if you already want to believe something. Because fake news also dresses itself up as something very authentic. I remember something from the Sabrimala controversy. One of the key themes there was menstruation. And so there was this lady doctor from Kerala who's in New York who wrote a long WhatsApp post, or maybe on Facebook or whatever, it was going on WhatsApp in the thousands, where she was saying that this place has a certain kind of very unique gravitational properties and this and that, and if a menstruating woman goes there, all sorts of and this is a medical doctor, certified medical, practicing in New York. Menstrual blood will flow backwards, and all kinds of unspeakable things will happen, and there is a persistent tendency to actually believe all this.
When you say that there's someone who's a doctor.
That's right.
Assign legitimacy, and you
the
already say
scientist is saying this, and so there is no, so anyone who says this sounds like something like completely cock and bull, but it is you whose whose word is actually considered dubious.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting kind of time, how to exactly speak the truth, or what you think is the truth, or at least kind of come up with a set of norms that governs how truth making should be, which is like you even a journalist, even someone who's a scientist, even a lawyer, even a judge, everyone comes with biases.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you have to sometimes seek out the truth despite your biases.
Yeah.
Like in the old scientific method where you have a hypothesis and your method is to actually try and prove it false.
Yeah.
That is the way of testing it, and only if it sort of survives the test, that so there are it's a very, very interesting topic. Traditional media, one assumes had a lot of methodical ways of governing and rigor, which is essentially to do with a certain methodical skepticism, really, and if actually like if a completely laissez-faire kind of thing happens, there's really no telling where we are going.
Yeah, and the trust in traditional media across the world is already low. In Brazil, for example, it's one of the worst countries in terms of trust in media. Even in India, we don't trust the media so much anymore.
No, I mean, we are talking about this new literates and new digitally. I mean, in the US, they are not. If you go to the Bible Belt and sort of, I saw a placard, man holding a placard the other day, and saying if you don't teach your child to love Jesus, then the devil will teach him sexuality, psychology, witchcraft, and there was one more very, one thing which I'm missing. And so I had sort of tweeted this, and I said, like, if the devil could also alongside, teach how to play guitar, and it would be a very fine liberal arts curriculum, really. So, but this is a fully mature, adult, middle-aged white male somewhere in the heart of the US.
Yeah.
Believing this, so I'm not very sure about the alleged stage of evolution of society that that brings about degrees of credulousness.
So with the digital thing, there's so many websites which have come up, which anyway the guy on the ground thinks, अच्छा ये तो अंदर की खबर बता रहे हैं. This is not the stuff that a Times of India say will report, put it on its front page. So they think this is the stuff that's been hidden from us.
That's right.
And anyway, the media is not.
There's been a long conspiracy by the liberal establishment to hide certain facts from you.
Communal violence, incidents of communal violence, flare-ups here and there. Why is it on the 8th page of the newspaper in a side column somewhere?
Exactly.
Why is it not on the front page when it's...
When a rape charge comes against, let's say, a leftist, people are suddenly quiet. They don't holler about it as loudly as they do. Some of it is actually true, and and there is the kind of hold that the older establishment had on institutions. It is undeniable, actually. So there is a certain kind of
trust deficit
and a sense of revenge that is happening, and all these questions of trust and truth and all are coming in the middle of this very, very shaky kind of a ground where everything is shifting. So we have a lot of hard work, sort of essentially. Yes,
a scary space.